Okay, cool. All right. So it seems to have started now. I think it's going.
Cool.
All right. We'll just see here. I just want to make sure the YouTube stream is going, so that way you have it to refer to later. Because especially if I'm doing like Ableton stuff, it's probably better if I move quick and then you watch it multiple times. We'll just see. Yep. Okay. Cool. It's working. Yay. All right.
Nice.
Cool.
Cool.
So this
Good stuff.
is a private lesson for Gabriel, aka Intervolver, who is a very talented young man who's working hard, making lots of music. And yeah, we're doing a private lesson. I don't always do private lessons, but this is one of them. So here we go.
So, main reason I wanted to do this like a couple months after I got into the course was I wanted time to get better, and so I could kind of drop in the middle and see how I've been improving.
Cool. Cool. All right. Well, I'm downloading your project file now. Hopefully, the 7Z works. I was having a bit of a problem with it last time. But why don't you tell me? Why don't you tell me a little bit about like, you know, where you feel you're at and where you want to go?
So I think in terms of arrangement and a bit of text, like technical stuff, mastering and mixing, I've improved like phenomenally. But in terms of making, I guess the kind of I want to, I'm looking to make a how to put this, like I want to mix the somatic quality of dance music with the kind of psychedelic quality of IDM.
Okay.
And I
Cool.
so not stuff maybe that you would exactly like go to a club to listen to, but stuff that you would kind of trip out to.
Cool. Okay. Sweet. So and your goal is basically mostly right now just to improve the music that you're making. Are there any other goals that I should know about?
uh I want I'm really trying to get that kind of like psychedelic neuro drop down. And I just watched your recent neuro drop lessons. I've gone through them like 3 times now, so I'm
Cool.
still unpacking a lot there. But I'm in terms of like arranging like a drop with all the bass segments and stuff. That's something I still
Okay, cool. Actually,
yeah,
I'm gonna show you here. Do you have the YouTube open? It's probably easier if you just have the YouTube window open than if I do screen sharing because it's a lot of back and forth with all the chats.
sure thing. Let me pull that up.
Okay, so I'm gonna show you a little something that I'm doing on this track that I feel
Here,
is
I got that.
useful. Okay, cool. But you should also go in the library in the dojo, right? If you go to the library and then you go to the weekly download, the last weekly download, I kind of get into a bit of drop composition. Um,
Vertical versus horizontal.
yes, that one
Yeah,
is
okay. I went
essential.
through that one.
Okay, cool.
I and actually I went through the project you're downloading. I went through it again after listening to it, and there'll be like a minor tweak you got to do. You'll have to like turn off one of the lead channels and
Okay,
like activate a clip segment, because I realized that like the lead instrument I had going on through the drop segments was just kind of competing with the bass and
okay,
muddying the whole thing up,
cool.
making it too horizontal, as it were.
Cool. Another lesson I would like to refer you to, right? And this guy is really cool. He's a teacher and he's on YouTube, and he's free. His lessons are free. He's very cool. I've reached out to him, but I've never heard back. Um, right? But this guy Alonso Magical, yeah,
Here, let me
Alonso
pull that up.
Magical, ALONSOMAJIKAL. And he's like a super old school kind of like MPC producer. But one of the great things about, like, I stumbled upon him when I was trying to program a live set with Bruce, my MPC 1000. And it's a really old piece of hardware, so there's not that many people doing tutorials on it. But he does these tutorials for the MPC 1000, but then he also has other tutorials that are about composing with the MPC 1000. And because there's not a screen to look at, right? When you're doing the
Hey,
tutorials.
sorry, just sorry to interrupt. Could you put his name in the chat or something like that?
Oh, yeah, it's Alonso Magical. Boop. There you go.
Thanks.
But yeah, so because he used an MPC which you can't visually see, he has to explain things with diagrams, right? So this one, next level sampling that I'm gonna send you. Here, I'll turn that off so I don't set off the copyright detection. But this one, Next Level Sampling, is especially good. And he basically uses, like, that diagram he's pointing at is basically a diagram of the composition of a typical dance groove, right? And he really explains it in very kind of simple, easy to understand terms, and it really helps with understanding where to put what.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna bookmark this.
But there is, of course, the arrangement exercise in the weekly download. I think it's
I
number 18.
keep going back to that and redoing
Yeah,
that for new tracks here and there, just trying
that
to
one really
like
helps.
get
Also,
that down.
this one, Virtual Riot makes a drop in 10 minutes. This one is really good. And I will paste that into your window too. That one
I'm
is
getting
also
better
really
at
good.
making the sounds and getting like the kind of squelchy sounds that I want, but I'm still falling behind on like having the parts all sound kind of disconnected and they don't really
Yeah.
like play off of each other properly.
Yeah, that's did you do the Finding the Pocket weekly download?
Yeah, I watched that as well just recently.
Okay, cool. Because that one's really important, especially. But you don't really like because there's another thing you can do here that I often do, but at the mix down stage, you see this little track delay at the end of the track on the right. There's a little track delay with the D icon on the session or on the like it's like a D
Yeah,
dropout
I
on the
got that.
session view. That will offset a track by an amount of milliseconds.
Oh, so you can just like shift the whole thing
Yeah, you
over
can nudge
without
it
having to
around,
like
but as soon as
change
you
the
nudge
MIDI.
it, it adds that amount of milliseconds to your latency. So
That's
you
super
get
handy.
brutal latency really fast. So I do it at mixdown stage. So I was currently working on a track where the drums and the subs, like I made some modifications to the drums. So my sub stem, the envelopes here, you can see they're kind of like slow. They weren't quite lining up where I wanted them on the drums to make a smooth like transition from kick to sub. So I
Right.
literally just nudged them over 20 milliseconds in the whole channel, and it fixed it all. And once you get it in the pocket like that, if you select everything on the channel and then move it around by that amount of milliseconds, you can take it off and then get things back. You know, if the latency is bothering you. But that's really important for getting things in the pocket, especially in the mix down. Sometimes like hi-hats and kicks and snares, they often sound better when they're not right on top of each other.
I have already been pulling not the snares, but I've been pulling my hi hats over a bit, like just delaying them a tiny bit because I found that helped kind of give it some syncopation.
Cool. I want to show you another thing that I do in Live 10, but I used to do this with Ascend. Have you watched the video on elegant sidechaining?
I haven't seen that yet. No.
Okay, you should watch
I'll
that
bookmark
weekly
that as well.
download. Here, I'll go get it. Yeah, I just updated all the weekly downloads and shit in the Start Here post. Right? If you go to post 4 and Start Here, that's where it has all the site content organized. And I just did a big update, so there's a lot of new stuff. But the one you want to check out is this elegant sidechaining one.
Number 15, right?
Yeah, elegant sidechains right here. I'll paste
Cool,
it
just
over into
found
your
that.
chat window. Okay, you got it. All right. So that one shows you how you can use Ascend to do your sidechaining. And that allows you to sidechain like multiple groups and stuff, for example. But in Ableton 10 now, you can put groups inside of groups. Are you on 10?
No, I'm still on 9. I
Okay.
bought 10. I bought 9 like half a year ago, so having to rebuy it, the whole thing again it's a bit much for me.
Okay, so you can do this with Ascend. Just watch the elegant sidechain video. But in your
All right, cool.
drops, right, check it out. I've got this channel called Sidechain. If this were Ableton 9, I would have a send called Sidechain, and everything would be going to that send. And then you can see here I have the kick sidechaining it fairly aggressively, but then I also have a gate that is being sidechained by cut-ins. And cut-ins is this group of sounds, right? And these are... right? And these like little glitchy sounds, they're gonna gate everything else out of the way, right? So sidechain is everything in the track.
that just to give them more space, or?
That's so that well, it's so that everything can be sidechained at once, right?
Okay, I stopped side chaining off of my chick, or I stopped side chaining off of my kick recently, and I've been using like a silent pulse track
Yeah, click
instead.
track or a kick, whichever, however you like to do it. It's different from track to track, you know.
Cool.
But in this setup, right, what you do is you have your drums, right? They're not going to the sidechain, and pretty much everything else is going to the sidechain. Like these cymbals, I didn't put to the sidechain. There's some vocal samples that aren't going to the sidechain, but pretty much everything else in the song is going to the sidechain. And then the sidechain is being sidechained by kick and by this group called cut-ins, right? So watch what happens when it's just those two without the cut-ins. Right? And now listen to this. And you can get that like back and forth drop checkerboard effect really nicely, because the new sounds are like just muting everything when they come in. And when you have a channel or two that mute everything when they come in, it's really easy to do all your fills and like you know, your drops. Like it really helps to have cut-ins in a drop.
Okay, I've been kind of like manually cutting bits of the sound out for the same effects.
That'll save you a bunch of time.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So that's the thing you can do, just incidentally if you're working on drops. All right, so let's go to downloads and see if I can get your .7z file to open.
Yeah, I've been using 7-zip, so I'm hoping that's not a problem.
Do I have to maybe download
I could install
7-zip?
WinRAR really quick if that's easier.
Because last time it got most of the way through opening, and then it was like, corrupted, not gonna open.
I don't know if it's like yeah, it opens fine on my side, so I don't know.
Fingers
It
crossed.
could be just a problem with uploading to Google, because I've had problems with them too.
Cool. So yeah, I've noticed that a lot of your tracks, you tend to have a lot of these like tails of stuff and a lot of like horizontal elements kind of in the way of your drops. So that's definitely like number one of the things you can do. And then the other thing is to get a drop to work really well, you got to get your drums super punchy, and you got to get your yeah, see, it's doing the same thing. This phone interference noise is corrupt, it says. So I'll see if I can just continue and see if it opens.
Oh shit, I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna install WinRAR and try and put it in one of those.
Yeah, zip might be better. Let's see if it opens. It seems like just one of the noises was corrupted, but we'll see. Oh no, it's okay. Samples are corrupted. How many samples are all fucked up? Okay, it's just these ones: beeps, biological slow, rod control 2, and rod control 3. How essential are those sounds?
Oh fuck, they're not in the yeah, you can do it without. That's like they're just sweetening.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just like a vocal. There's like 3 different vocal clips. I forgot to move them into the project file. Okay.
Yeah, remember you always gotta collect all and save and stuff. Okay, I didn't get any plugin errors or anything.
Yeah, I flattened them all down.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's check this shit
out. So turn off lead 2, the dark blue one, and then on the ARP, just reactivate the very first ARP clip.
Reactivate this one?
Sorry, it's slowing down. Yeah.
Okay, cool, I got it. Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna play it. Cool. Yeah, it's a pretty cool track, man. I dig it. There's definitely a lot to like here, and I think I have a few things that you can do that will be able to improve it without it being too much of a headache for you.
Cool.
Sweet. So yeah, I really dig the like '80s kind of vibe of it. It's really nice. It's a lot more like everything's taking turns. The composition's a lot better. I think that one thing that you could really focus on that would make it substantially more interesting is instead of thinking of verses and choruses, right? Think of energy levels and intensity of emotion, right? So, like in the breakthrough and in the ill methodology, I talk about the three different types of sections: suspense, payoff, and curveball, right?
If you check out at the top, I've been using like I'm calling them verse, chorus, etc. for my own purpose, but I
Uh,
do have them set out to like A, B, and like one C
okay,
section.
well, the thing is, there's not really a big sense of suspense and payoff between those two sections.
Okay, so like the A sections aren't actually
Yeah,
like building up at all.
you've got to make the contrast between them more more obvious because A kind of feels like like we're kind of like this we're chugging along like we're at a place there that A doesn't feel like it's like moving somewhere, right? B is like a place where you're like, yes, here we are in this groove, in this like mode that this track is bringing us to,
So there's no like it doesn't like logically one doesn't lead to the other.
Yeah, like they're labeled that, but they're not hitting that, you know. So I think when you're like listen to music, right? And when you're listening to music, think about how the person who's making that track is either achieving a suspense or a payoff, or are they, you know, keeping you on your toes and doing something else that is like some other sort of thing, right?
I've been trying to do that like in the melody, but I guess that's not enough to actually
Yeah,
create that
cause
effect.
the basically the presence of this track, like your track, your energy levels of the actual dance groove and stuff in a track are usually determined by how full the frequency ranges, especially the top end, are, and how rhythmically intense things are, right? So there should be a pretty marked difference in the rhythmic intensity of your parts between a section that is supposed to bring you suspense and a section that is supposed to bring you release, right?
Would I do that by making the tension sections less complicated?
No, but there's a real regularity to the rhythm, and it sounds like you're listening to the full beat. Like
Okay.
that section is not really holding anything back, and like it feels like a full section. So typically, suspenseful sections are more minimal, longer notes, more negative space, um, that kind of thing. So
So like
really,
the focus more on pads and kind of like opening up
well,
filters
see,
and
the thing
stuff like
is,
that.
there's not so much of a specific recipe to this because, like you can write tracks that are like build up, drop, breakdown, etc. And those types of sections, they give you very specific instructions, right? But thinking of a track in terms of like creating anticipation and satisfying the anticipation, if you think about it like that, then the other sections will kind of write themselves, and you won't have to say like, oh, this is like, this is how a verse should be, this is how a chorus should be, etc., etc., etc. It by framing them as suspense and release is asking you what is suspenseful to you, as opposed to like a formula. So I think like, if you listen to like a lot of things that sound good are like for suspenseful sections are like impact sounds that have a long decay tail. It's like right, or a really dissonant chord, You know, sometimes chords that are not like, because the chord, when you're playing the chord that's on the root of whatever scale you're in, or that is like a nice kind of classic triad style chord, they often sound really like resolved, you know, where it's just like you're somewhere chill, right? Whereas
Yeah, so
if
it's like it's denying the tonic and like waiting to the payoff section
yeah,
before getting into the
that
bass
kind of
note.
stuff can be good. Or if you do a 13th interval is really good. Like if you have a note and then another note a 13th above it, because
Right.
if you had them right next to each other, that interval would be a second, and that interval is quite dissonant. So you can get away with that interval in a chord if there's like other high and low stuff around it. But if you do a 13th, just a 13th can sound really intense. Like it can be a lot, you know. Or if you were to play a suspended, uh, sorry, a sus chord, right? And a sus chord is where, and you move the third, you move like you substitute the second or the fourth for one of the notes, right? So you could have like the third and the fourth together, or the second and the third together, and those kinds of chords, because those notes are really close together, it creates a dissonance that
Yeah, they,
that
they
your
kind of beat
ear
off
your
of each
ear
other because they're
wants to
too close harmonically, right?
yeah, and or like in the Beatles songwriting, for example, they would have these pre-chorus sections that would drive people fucking crazy. Where, because the classic like resolving of the cadence is going from the fifth chord to the one chord,
Mhm.
and we're done. You know that interval, and if and what the Beatles would do is they would like get to the fit, like you'd have a chord progression that really lets you know what key it's in, and that they're gonna land on the tonic. You know, they're gonna land on it at some point, but then they go up to the fifth and the dominant and just make them wait for it. You
So
know, so
it's
if you
like it's
hold that,
denying the kind of payoff that comes
ex-
from the resolution and building that up until you hit into the drop.
yeah, exactly. So if you hold on that five chord for a long time in your build-ups, it can create a very powerful feeling of suspense because you know that the tonic is coming because of
So
that.
in the build-ups, that seems to be like build-ups, and I guess like curveball sections seem to be the only place in this genre where you can really focus on melody. So should I be
No, that's not
focusing on more
necessarily
dissonant
that's
melodies,
not
or
that's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily true at all. You can have a drop that has a sick melody in it. A lot of people do.
I guess I've been misunderstanding what works in a drop. Like when I was watching the like horizontal versus vertical thing, it was, and in other ones about drops, you talk about how like because of how checkerboarded you have to get it, it doesn't seem like there's room for like a sustained note melody to
Oh
like
no,
really
you
complete
you
itself.
can definitely have like do you listen to What So Not?
No.
You should listen to What So Not. He's really good.
Okay.
He used to be What So Not used to be this guy emo and then Flume, but Flume left. But the other dude is I think as good at Flume and definitely like his music is better for dance floors and stuff, right? But he
Right.
has a really nice way of making drops that have a lot of melody to them, and it almost feels like it's like a down tempo track, but his melodic songwriting is just so fucking huge that they work as drops, you know. And it's pretty. There's nary a Morphe bass sound to be found, you know. It's like, and there are drops like he can headline and it can be awesome, you know. So
Very
there
cool.
are ways of doing it, but what makes a good drop typically, right, is like having a much, a bit more of a minimal composition in that there's not a ton of melodic layers at a time, and really a steady and compelling drum and sub bass groove, right? Like the drums and the subs are essential for a drop.
What areas in the drop are best for like exploring or like trying to find new ways of doing things? Because I really want to focus on that kind of psychedelic thing. I don't want to like get stuck just doing like the back and
Yeah.
forth between loud bass sounds. Like in what I
Yeah,
have
don't
here,
don't
I
do
was
that. I
going
mean, that
for
sound is kind of done anyways, you know. Like don't. don't worry about that. But you could like try checkerboarding because I think I most commonly illustrate the checkerboarding concepts with bass sounds. But you can, it's especially effective with melody. And melody, it's often referred to as call and response.
I'm familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you can definitely basically the idea with a drop, like you don't drop into a guitar solo.
I understand
You
that.
don't drop into like the whole band, everybody freaking out. You drop into like a really tight groove that is in the pocket, and basically the drums need to be on point, simple, easy to dance to. Because dance music should be showing you how to dance. Like it should be compelling you to dance. It should be very obvious how to dance to it, right?
Well, then if I want to make like psychedelic IDM style drops, is that kind of like going against the point, or?
In a way, but music is all about contrast and dynamics and rule breaking and stuff. It's not to say that it can't be done. Like a lot of people have made some pretty advanced sounding like compositionally intense dance music. It is more of a challenge,
Because
but
I,
that's
I
not to
I
say that
hear
it can't
these
be
like
done.
really wet kind of almost soundscape neuro drops, and they don't seem super danceable, but that's really like what I want to make. I want to create these kind of like whole spaces that really take over your mind when you listen to them.
Well, neuro drops are typically quite minimal. Like they're typically quite minimal and typically do not involve a ton of melody in the actual drop. Like if you're talking about making neuro specifically, there's definitely usually you have some kind of a shuffle to the beat. So I would recommend that you familiarize yourself with the groove pool.
Right.
Have you used that much?
I don't know. I kind
Oh,
of
okay,
manually
cool.
try and make my grooves just by moving stuff around.
Okay, so here, yeah, these are all pretty right on. Okay, so here, check this out, right? If you go here and you turn on the groove, you have like all these different kinds of grooves that you can apply, right? So let's see what your groove is mostly. Oh, it's mostly quarter notes. You probably won't hear it on this one. Do you have any hi-hats? Yeah, I'm doing a lesson right now. Yeah, I'll be out in a bit. Sorry. But yeah, here, I'll go into the hi-hats and we'll put it on a groove. And I'm going to say, what are these on? 16ths? So let's see. MPC 16, swing 60. And then, okay, so then here, go groove, and then it pops up in all the other ones, right? And then when you do it to like all of your sounds, it starts making your beats all sassy. I'm going to do it to your side chain too. That's pretty much everything. Okay, so, oh yeah. Right, compare the timing of that to this. Just play this to the hi-hats.
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you with the track.
Oh, okay, here, hang on, okay, so, you can hear the track though clearly? I mean, it's on the YouTube video for later, but can you hear it on your thing? Because I can adjust some settings in my other software.
I can hear the track clearly, but it seems to be down in volume when it comes on.
Okay, I'll turn it up a little bit.
I can rewatch it. I don't want to chew up too much time with that.
Well, here, so check it out. I'll just play the percussion section. Is there a reason that your kick and snare are off center in the panning?
Sorry, how do you mean?
Your kick and snare are like a hair to the left and right. Is that on purpose?
Yeah, I was trying to the last track I submitted to Matter. He was talking about like my left and right and not really like filling out the space there properly. So I'm trying to kind of make it feel more like all the instruments are kind of in their own place.
Don't do that. It's like tempting to think that, like, okay, so actually it's funny to bring up the Beatles twice, but you remember the early Beatles records when they first made stereo, they were doing all this shit where they would like have the bass in the left ear only and like the vocals on
yeah, yeah.
They had to like remaster all those because mixes like that do not translate very well at all.
So
Like
is
it's a
even
big problem.
like the tiny
So
nudge too much, or
you
should
got
it
yeah,
like
yeah. Your kick and snare should be down the middle for sure.
okay, yeah,
And
because they're fundamental. Okay,
yeah, they're like the rest of the mix is built around them, right? So basically, okay, so think about your mix like a cube, right? Up
okay,
and down is the frequencies. Left and right is not only panning but spread, and then front to back is volume and depth of the effects. So like when you make delays and reverbs and shit, they tend to sound kind of farther away.
mhm.
And then like things that are really distorted and don't have reverb and like compressed and in your face, they sound closer. Right? Now, in the left and right, don't think about just where this instrument has as a position. Think about the spread, because each instrument is a spread of position. It's not a single point position, right? And when Dustin's telling you that you need to fill out the left and right, he's saying that you need to work on your stereo imaging and work on the parts that are in like that are filling out the groove, make them go around the kick and the snare. You really want to make sure that your kick and snare are nice and powerful and that they translate on all sound systems, and for that you need to have them be centered. Very, very important. You
All
may
right,
add some stereo spreading and stuff to the top end of a kick or a snare, but to actually change the panning location of it is very counterproductive.
okay. Well, I'm gonna change that right now.
Okay, cool. So here, listen to the timing here, especially of the hi-hat, and feel the like it's very, very regular, right? Right? Now listen to it with the swing. Here, I'll mute the tom.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I can hear the shuffle effect.
Yeah, so that pretty much all neuro and hip hop and beats like that, like unless you're making electro, you want to have some swing and some groove to it, and it's best applied by using the groove pool in Ableton. And the groove pool is very, very cool. So like check this out, right? This bass tells it whether to be 16ths or 8ths or what, because you groove, you're essentially offsetting the second of two 16th notes in your pairs of 16th notes. So instead of going ta 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 ta, it's like ta 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 ta, you know? So it's like a shuffle, right?
Right.
This first field, this quantizes any MIDI or events. This will force it to whatever this bass grid is before applying this timing amount. And then you can vary with a fader how much of your groove you're applying. You can also add randomness to the offset of things and make it so that they don't hit exactly on the same place every time. And then you can also apply the groove to the velocity, right? Very, very cool. So now, if you go to the groove library here, I'm going to go in and there's my, so MPC swing. Check this out. You can bring in a groove as a MIDI clip and see here, right? Not only does the groove have this quantized information where you can see it's offset, but you can actually adjust the velocities of a groove, and then you can save it, right? And then bring that groove in, and it will affect the velocity or volume of a clip, and really give it that like shuffly kind of hip hoppy swagger, right? So definitely explore that groove too with the groove pool. I'll do a weekly download on the groove pool in a bit. It'd be a good follow up to the getting in the pocket one. I'll do a weekly download of that for you. But
Cool.
who else is good with the groove pool? If you look up groove pool and then Afro DJ Mac, he's really great, and he has a course here that you can take. I've taken this course. It's very cool. It's just like a short little course. And yeah, if you like for technical courses, Ask Video is pretty good. I give them like $20 a month to watch technical courses. They're pretty good. They're not like it's not going to show you how to write a song really, but there's lots of courses where it's like, this is how this plugin works, this is how that plugin works, and I cannot be bothered. Like, I don't think Producer Dojo will have any of those courses because making them is fucking boring. But it is good to take them sometimes. And his Groove Pool course is cool. But he's also, I think, got a few teasers and stuff. And I think if you just look up, like, Ableton Live, yeah, Groove Pool explained, I'm sure you'll be able to find tutorials. But if you're making neuro, you're especially going to want to have some of that groove happening to really get some swagger in your beats. You know, because hip hop, like, especially, it depends on anything in that BPM range. It depends on getting things really in the pocket and getting the grooves tight and everything. You know, so I think that's really going to help you.
Is
Also,
it correct to interpret it as like the being in the pocket is kind of like introducing the quality of tension release on a very small scale?
not really.
Okay,
No.
sorry, I'm
Thinking about in the pocket is basically like everything is playing together. All the parts are playing together. They all have their spots, and their spots are just like interlocking. You know, like think about it like a rhythmic jigsaw puzzle. You know,
okay. So it's
you
like
gotta
in the pocket video, you show the effect where if you like perfectly quantize them, all the sounds kind of cancel each other out. It's that is it just to avoid that?
yeah, but it's also like a feel thing. Like, do you dance?
I don't know. So
Okay,
that's a
so
barrier to what my
I
work.
think it would probably because you're doing a couple things here that are not really the kinds of things that help with dancing. Like, for example, this second clap here, like with the double up, is
Mhm.
really kind of making your groove sound a bit weird. Like, check it out. Like, it creates a kind of an awkward stop in the motion because it's really tough to tell because like a beat should push and pull, right? And right in that spot it's pushing and pulling at the same time,
Oh,
so it's
okay.
kind of
I
like,
understand.
yeah,
So if I put the clap on the other side, like the instead of like leading in with the clap, if I just followed with the second one,
yeah,
that would.
well, because there's a kick there, right? So see what I'm saying? It's like boom chuck chuck, it's like,
Yeah, when you like putting it in terms of push and pull, I can understand that.
yeah, so it's a good idea to kind of like when I talk about dancing in your studio, I'm not joking. You know, like, it is an essential part of making music if you want to make like music that can be listened to in a dance environment and have people dance to it. You actually have to get up and dance to it. Like, it's part of it.
So, well, that's one of the things I was interested in. Is like, I'm not sure what direction I should be pushing in terms of genre and stuff. Like, I know the kind of
Don't worry
sounds
about
that I
that
want to
yet.
make, but I don't know what I should be aiming for in terms of marketability and
Yeah,
actually
you know
like
what? Me neither. I don't know what I should be aiming for in terms of genre or marketability. I don't care. I just make the music that I'm gonna make, and I make a bunch of it, and then sometimes I'll get a clump of tracks that seem like they're like, oh, okay, this would be like a good snapshot. Like, these tracks are kind of complementary. I'll put them out together. But you shouldn't really be aiming for genres or marketability or anything. You know,
well,
just
in that sense, then should I be focused on trying to make music that's danceable, or should it like
I mean, you right now, like, you need to really focus on just finishing a lot of music, like getting used to the process, getting used to all the little issues that come up along the way. You
so
know,
like workflow and like
yeah,
consistency?
yeah. Workflow and consistency is far more important than like, cause I mean, when you start to get to the point where you're making track, because the mixtapes, if you listen to the mixtapes, right, like, there's not really any genre rules at all on those mixtapes. It's pretty much like people just do whatever, and if it's dope enough, it goes on, and then if it's not, then they try again next month, you know.
Mhm.
But those, like, like, just think about it in terms of making something that's high quality enough to make it on the mixtape. Do that first, do that
So
first because
would aiming for the mixtape kind of be a good way to like self-assess how far along I am? Like if I can start getting on it, then I know that I'm getting to like a more professional end of things.
Yeah, definitely. And basically, the label, because the label is an extension of my brand. And if I start releasing a bunch of shit, it reflects badly on me as Ill Gates and my
Well,
brand that
yeah,
I
I
make a
get
living
that.
on, right? So the quality control is pretty strict, you know? And I mean, the mixtape is probably the lowest barrier to entry, and it's a rotating deadline that happens each month. And then after you get a few on the mixtapes that are like, then we'll start thinking about doing an EP and stuff. But yeah, I would say use, for your halfway done tracks and stuff, and your monthly lessons, just use the track feedback forum a lot and book your monthlies with the guys there. But then for releasing stuff, there's a second, like I made a label releases forum in here. So this one,
I'm not worried about releasing stuff yet. I'm more trying to figure out like how far away from that I am. Like I get that I've improved, but I still
yeah,
don't. I
your
can see how
composition
far
is
I've come, but I
fucked.
don't know how far I have to go, sort of thing.
Well, just listen to the mixtapes. That's the caliber of stuff that makes it. You know, and but I think like really, you need to work on your groove, and then you need to make sure that your tracks have a like. I mean, you're not following trends, which is nice, and I like that. That definitely is where you want to be for when you're developing your musical personality. But at the same time, I'm having trouble getting a coherent theme from a lot of your tracks. You know, like it's hard to really tell what they're about, what they're expressing.
Do you mean like a genre theme or just
No,
like a more
just like
abstract
what is this
system?
track about? You know?
Well, I know what they're about personally to me, but I guess that's not like coming across properly then.
Yeah, I think like when you're making themes and stuff, you need to find like whatever your main theme is, whether it's a motif or a lyric or what. It's got to be really striking. Like when you hear that shit, you got to be like, "Oh, that's that fucking track." Like
So I'm not making my purple cow strong enough.
yeah, well, it's not so much even just being weird. You can make a boring sound that is like rocking. Like you can take like a saw wave and make
Or
some
sorry,
really
not
sick.
purple. You called it the face sound,
Yeah,
right?
the face. Did you get the library?
Sorry, which library?
This library, the Ill Gates 2018 sample library.
No, I don't have that.
Oh, bro, you're stoked right now. Okay, so go in the library in the dojo, and in the library, if you go to page 2, I sent out an email about this. I'll send out another one, I guess. But go to the project vault, and inside of the project vault, there is the Ill Gates 2018 sample library, and it is a 6 gigabyte folder structure that I'm constantly adding to that basically goes like this, where you got a folder of faces, and these are just like demo faces, folder of purple cow sounds, folder of sparks, and then all different kinds of drum rack sounds, and then lots of other sounds and like melodies from my tracks, all kinds of stuff. And if you basically like look at that folder structure and start to add your own, folder structure that's similar, where you're finding just the best sounds on your hard drive, whether they're from your tracks or from sample packs or what, and just getting them into these folders. Having a sample archive that's like nice and maintained like this, where because this sample archive has everything that you need, right?
Those the missing sounds that I didn't put in the project folder might have helped the track a bit. My core personal theme with what I sample is I tend to sample a lot of stuff from dystopian films, which is like a preference of mine.
Nice, way better than utopian. Who can handle a utopian future film? Ugh.
But so stuff like THX 1138, Logan's Run, and shit like that. There's
Nice.
just filled with lots of interesting sounds and stuff that I like
Okay,
to try
cool.
and pull from.
So yeah, I think that having interesting sample material is kind of like a good shortcut to having a face in a track, but I think you really need to work more on melodies that really stand out, because these melodies, they all feel like they're kind of like accompaniment parts, like they're waiting for, like if you can imagine someone singing on top of your track and it working, then you still need to have more of a face,
Okay,
right? Like there should be something there that makes it so a vocalist.
something that like takes the place of like a lyric.
Yeah, like something that takes the place of a vocal. So it could be like a really strong melody. It could be any number of things. Sometimes unusual percussion when treated interestingly enough is enough to drive the track.
Like I've been going through the hook theory stuff, and I keep trying to redo that, but
You're
I'm still
melodically
not
way better off
make
here.
I'm
You're
still not
melodic.
making melodies that I feel are
Yeah,
like
this
I
shit
can
makes
tell that they're
sense
kind of
though.
lame too. So,
This makes a lot more sense than your earlier stuff. Like compositionally and melodically, it makes a lot more sense. It's definitely progress.
but I can tell it's still boring. Like I've been trying to get more draw more inspiration from like synthwave sort of sounds and everything, but it's still not. I often end up in this like weird kind of like melancholic sludge that doesn't really
Yeah.
have
Do
an
you have a
emotional
push or
character.
anything else that has isomorphic scales?
Sorry, say that again.
Do you have a push?
No, I've just got that the what's it called, the god damn it, the MIDI controller.
Which one are you using for melodies?
I don't play melody manually. I just arrange it like by hand.
Okay. Um, interesting, interesting. Okay, so have you watched the video where I show you how to? So what MIDI controller do you have?
I've got and like a small Akai keyboard
Oh,
and
you have a
that MIDI
keyboard.
fighter.
Okay, great. Okay, so you have a keyboard. All right, so one scale that is really really good for playing keyboard if you don't know how to play keyboard very well is the B flat scale. Okay, and the B flat
Okay.
scale is all black keys, F and C. Right, and it's one of those scales that has a really funky kind of vibe to it. Like it's
Do you
just
think focusing on like keyboarding is gonna take me somewhere in terms of
yeah,
melody?
yeah, because melodies like okay, so I mean, one thing you can do is sing melodies and then use the audio to MIDI. It's very very good for that. I sometimes do that when I can't figure it out with my hands. But singing a melody is really good because it basically like you tend to sing melodies that sound more like a lead.
Okay, because I've been kind of very locked into like the formula of melody and shit without really. I don't. I guess I don't sit down and like have a melody in my head. I just kind of like find my way through keys that end up sounding good.
Yeah, that's great for accompaniment parts. But a lot of the time, you're gonna need to like make some sort of a striking central lead that is less formulaic sounding, right?
Right.
So some things that you can do to make your leads less formulaic are having lots of negative space in them, right? So that there's lots of long pauses. And avoiding the root is really good with your lead melodies. It's a good thing to do. Having clumps of notes is a good thing. So it'd be like ba bum bum
When you
ba
say avoiding the root, is that
ba
like
da
should I
da
be
da
leaving
da
the
da
root
da
up
da.
to like the bass line?
Avoiding the like the scale do re mi fa sol
Yeah,
la
yeah.
ti do.
It's the
Avoid
tonic.
do.
Like, should I
Yeah,
be
avoid.
focusing on the tonic only in the bass line then?
No, it's there's not really like I think you're trying to make too many rules, man.
It's
Like a
not.
lot of this
I'm
stuff is
trying to.
feel.
I'm rephrasing what you're saying because I'm trying to make sure I understand it.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff is feel, but yeah, you can have the like it depends on your bass line. It depends on your chord progression. But if you avoid the tonic a little bit in the lead, it creates a feeling of unresolved kind of cadence. And it makes it more interesting because you're like, oh, when's it going to do the thing that I'm expecting it to do? Right? So it can sometimes be nice in your to have your leads be more wandering than the bass line and the chord progression. You want them to kind of like explore on top, and they'll like be a bunch of little notes and they'll go over here and they'll pause and look around for a bit and then they'll go over here and then a bunch of notes come here and then and
Okay.
it's like kind of like think about it like an animal moving around this landscape that you've created.
So yeah, I'm getting from that like more of like explore the scale more, explore the chords more, and like more in terms of flourishes rather than just like consistent like progression.
Yeah, and like your melodies in this track, for example. like in here too, these like everything, there's no negative space. Like they're all filled all the way in. You know, and when you have melodies with more gaps in them, it really kind of creates a more can create a more interesting dynamic. Now, there's definitely a place for melodies with all the notes filled in, but try varying that. You know, try having it
And
be
so
like some of them
in
have
in
all.
a in a in a like a drop section, if I'm cutting pieces out of the melody and the bass line, is that where I would just drop in more sound effects?
No, even just have nothing there. Like check this out. Let's see, where's your sounds? Okay, these are percussion, so I'm gonna bring them up here. What's this? Oh, it's the muted lead. Okay.
Oh, is the Reese top line disabled?
No.
Okay.
Like this kind of shit sounds way more droppy because it's like got that vertical happening. Or like here, take this one here. I'll zoom my grid out.
Yeah, it is disabled. I can see it says sample offline.
Here. I can see the sample. This one, oh, this one,
There's
the
the
Reese
sub,
top. Oh
there's the
yeah, that
Reese,
one
and
is,
then
yeah.
there's Reese top, just beneath.
Yeah, that one, I don't have that sample. That's already creating like more of a narrative and more of a flow, more of a vertical kind of drop energy and less of a horizontal chill energy. You know, so but that's what I mean by negative space. Like a lot of the time when people are just starting, especially if you're using a pattern sequencer or something, there's just fucking notes everywhere. You know, it's just full of
Yeah,
notes.
I feel it's really difficult to just leave nothing there, especially in terms of sub bass. I feel like the sub should always be there, so
Yeah,
just like you
yeah.
can
Have
just cut it all out.
gaps. Have gaps. Yeah, by all means, have gaps.
Okay.
You know, like you gotta vary everything. That's, you know, the more you can vary everything, the more musical it's gonna sound. Right? And then also you could have some back and forth in the drums, like if you were to go like this. Oh yeah, I popped my grid out. There we go. Then you can double time it. Oops, double time it. You know, so that your hi-hats have some variation too. And you're really varying the rhythmic intensity a lot. And then like that. Right? And you can see how that's really creating a checkerboard. You know, you've got this section versus this section now going A, B, A, B. There's like these different, you know, kind of motifs coming in with the hi-hats and stuff. And it really like, it just makes the whole thing feel like the track is like interacting and the parts are moving and stuff. You know, but these are all just simple variations, but they add up to the feeling where the whole track is moving together, as opposed to like layer this, layer that, layer this, layer that, right? So that's kind of like checkerboarding, but with sequencing drums.
Okay, that's something I guess I've been neglecting.
Yeah. So when you go in, you can go in and just really sequence your parts a bit more, and kind of like, have them flow around a bit more, because when like a part is kind of really static like that, it becomes a horizontal layer.
Yeah, getting enough negative space is something I've been struggling with a lot. Is I constantly feel inclined to like just find something to put in there, and that like usually makes it all filled up like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So take stuff away. Take stuff away and then add more variation to what you keep. Right? Instead of adding more sounds, add more variation to your existing sounds. Because a lot of the time, like a drop can sound so great, like super, super minimal. I also would like to see you get things sitting on top of the mix a little bit more. This Reese, for example, I mean, maybe it's because it's missing that top layer. Whoa, there's some.
Well, the top did the top layer not load in, or like what happened there?
I'm missing the sample. It was corrupted, I guess. It's
Oh
weird that
man,
that's
that's
missing.
really weird. That was definitely in the project folder. What happens when you try and activate it? It's just like not there.
I can't activate it. But here, I'll just show you something that you
The
can
top
do.
layer like is like half of the it's yeah.
Okay, well here, I'll show you how you can get some top out of this guy. So, if you go in, right, and you put a rack, and you put an amp in it, but put it in parallel. So we've got dry, and then an amp, right? Then you can take a filter, put it in bandpass, give it a little bit of LFO, and then put them out of phase with each other, and then they'll kind of move, and then you get...
You're gonna have to take my word for it when I say that there was a lot of crazy movement in the top.
Okay. Right? And then on that layer, if you put a filter delay, and you do this is from the Sitting on Top weekly download. But if you have two of these guys like slightly offset, right, with the 0, 0, actually maybe even -6. You have these ones left and right offset with the feedback all the way down. These become offsets. It gives you some nice stereo width. And then give it some drive. Maybe some saturator after. Right, and it'll add that width and presence. God, that OTT thing is driving me a little crazy. I don't know where that's coming from there. I'm gonna put a gate. Sometimes OTT does that, it's annoying. There we go. Right, and then that'll really... As opposed to... Right, but this trick where you have the left and right, it's kind of like the Haas effect, but like in parallel, so you're mixing that in against the dry signal. Really helps widen things. So there's a weekly download about it called Sitting. Right, if you go into here in the weekly or in the everything organized post, right, which is, oh boy, yeah, we're doing some site maintenance right now, so it's not as snappy as it sometimes is. But yeah, if you go here into the site organized one and look up Sitting on Top, I'll
Yeah, I can pull that up pretty quick.
Yeah, I'll paste it into your window here. But you're gonna want to do that, especially to your face sounds and anything that you want to be.
I'm gonna have to rewatch this section because the Hangouts is getting really laggy.
Yeah, well, that's why I record, and the YouTube will have better video quality than your better audio quality than your chat will anyway.
Yeah.
So I think you'd really benefit from doing some kind of adding a bit more dimension. So do that one and do depth as well. And then I think probably the main thing that's making this not sound IDM-y is that you're using very standard percussion sounds. Like really, really standard, you know? Especially with your snare. Even if you,
And so to move away from that, should I just be like digging out better
yeah,
like
just get
sample
weirder
libraries, or
sounds.
should I just be spending sessions like reworking drums or what?
Yeah, here, like this is cool. All pitched up. You know? But yeah, just like fuck with them a bit more. Another really kind of cool thing that you can do to a snare, right? I'm going to take this one, put it down here, and then check it out. If you take a second copy, like here, I'll put this down to 0, back where it was. And then we'll take a second copy that's pitched up, and then put that a little early, right? Like that. And then I want the other one to mute it. So I'm going to put a gate on. So the other one is going to mute it. So I'm going to say snare. It's going to mute this channel. I'm going to flip the gate. Yeah. There we go. So you get this really tight little transient coming into the other one. So what's going to happen is this is going to play, and then this second snare, the original snare, is going to mute it. Right? And you get that chiglack kind of sound. Watch, I'll pitch it up even more. Right? Can get a pretty cool drum tone like that. And then watch. Right? Or if you were to take them and then offset them there, so that one. Right? Compare that to. Like this snare is getting lost, but that little. You know, and that's weird to have like a double drum hit instead of a drum hit and have one of them be all pitched and stuff. It's like kind of weird, but you can get like a kind of more unusual drum sound. And then if all this stuff becomes a bit intense, you can always just sample it. Do you have any mastering stuff on here? Oh yeah, you do. Okay, I'll take that off. And then solo these two. Yeah, you'll be able to see what's happening once I resample it. Okay, so it's some weird kind of double ones in there, but fix that. But yeah, so turn it up here. Yeah, so you see this second one? How the snare's like chiglack, chiglack each time. Right, and then you have that sound for later. Right?
It definitely pops a lot more, kind of cuts through better.
I'm gonna gate it, get rid of that reverb tail. You know, because it's got more high end at the beginning, and then it's got this kind of double transient. But yeah, so doing stuff like that to your drums. Another cool thing too to do with drums is pre-delay on the reverb. And then so you turn the diffuse down, so you're just getting a slap back now, and then offset it a bunch. So okay. You hear that echo?
Mm.
It's like and then sometimes you want to compress just the reverb. or turn the volume up on just the reverb, but I like a compressed reverb, so I'm going to put this in a wet dry rack. So now we have a dry chain and a reverb here. Yeah. You can get these kind of like...
Yeah, it gets kind of starting to sound a bit verb gated.
And if you want more precision over it or a longer one, put a simple delay, link them, put it like this, and then all the way wet with the feedback down, and then this becomes a delay amount, so then you can go a little higher. Time it nice. Okay, and then I'm going to put another delay in here, but this one's going to be actually used as a delay. Link them. So you get like a reverb delay. So you see? Alright, and time it until you get it right in the pocket. But shit like that, like IDM producers do like weird glitchy stuff to their drums typically, right? Oh, this seems to have gotten eaten. Whoops, I wonder when that happened. I was like, yeah, where's that layer? I guess I accidentally recorded over that layer. Whoopsie. Yeah. Now you can turn this thing down now that we've got... Yeah, so let's put this back. Oh yeah, I'll put your mastering stuff back on, that'll help. Right, so compare that to this. Or here, this. And then this. Like that has a real like push and pull to it, you know, and it's like da pa da pa ba pa ba pa ba da 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 ba, you know, like you can make up a dance to that, you know.
Right.
So
I'm hearing the difference, yeah.
yeah, so start making, you know, start producing your drum parts a bit more is a good idea, and then just start with more, like use a Sparks folder, because I couldn't tell you which one of these sounds was the Spark, you know, there's not really any obvious, like, oh, this is the cool spot, this is probably where it started, you know, and start with something really fucking cool when you start. So I have this Sparks folder in here that's just all really interesting. Like these are all just like cool, like you start them and you're like, whoa, I can hear a whole track in my head around that, you know? So start with something that makes you hear a whole track in your head, because it'll help later. And then make sure you have a face every time, and that there's something like, even if the face is a melodic face, you know, just make sure that there's something really specific that track is like about, you know.
Okay, so I like when I get these themes, like I said earlier, I know what it's about, but it's not coming across. I gotta work more on like pulling out exactly what it is that is going on in my head that I'm trying to convey.
Yeah, and just like really exaggerate whatever it is that you're trying to say. Like if you're trying to tell someone you love them, you know, how is that going to be different than the millions of other times other human beings have told people that they love them? You know, like you need to let them know. Really, like,
Yeah,
you know.
and just because it makes sense in my head doesn't mean that's gonna come across just automatically. So
Yeah, yeah. You need to really like paint with broad strokes, write with capital letters. You know, whatever emotion you're feeling, it needs to be super fucking clear.
okay, that helps a lot. Like in terms of figuring out how to like make something more unique going on because I don't want to fall into that. I'm getting tired of the just sludgy nothing melodies I've been putting out.
Yeah, just make sure that there's always like a really strong central figure, and that it's like there is no doubt in anybody's mind what the vibe of that track is. You know, like this one, like it kind of feels like you're still just checking things out, seeing how they sound together. You know, so really like how being a bit more intentional about what you're communicating, and just being like, what am I communicating emotionally, and let that be the guiding light. You still there?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, cool.
Uh, there's been a lot of lag, so I'm just catching up on the video side.
Okay, cool. All right, so I think that's probably about time. Do you have any questions for me before we go?
Uh, you've all the main things I wanted to ask. I managed to like weave in as we went along.
Okay, cool.
Uh, yeah, this has been helped me kind of like focus down on where I should be aiming myself moving on.
Yeah, because I mean, you're definitely making gains, man. You're definitely making gains, and if you can just really start like theming your tracks and really just like getting in touch with the physicality of dancing and getting in touch with the emotionality of what you're trying to express, you're not going to have too much trouble making like heady IDM-y dance music. You just got to dance, and you got to really get weirder with your sounds and really like get more intense with your emotions.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna go back and spend more time doing that neuro bass thing because it broke down and ended up getting like the Tractor 12 plugin, and
It's
that's
so
been
great.
helping
They're
me.
so I love them, especially that.
I
Oh,
It just took me to a whole new place in terms of getting really fucked up sounds.
have you been doing the thing where you make really long recordings of fucked up noises?
That's what I've been working
Okay,
on
good.
for the
That's
last
really
2 days
important.
now. Since I especially love the what's it called, shit
Like I have just
the
tons of these recordings, just me making like
here, let me pull it open.
just making
The
weird fucking
transpose
noises.
stretcher, that's
Yeah, that one's
I
really
love
good.
where that's been taking some of the stuff I've been working on.
Cool. All right, cool. Well, I think I'm gonna call it then. Thank you so much for supporting the dojo and supporting me in what I do, man. And I'm really excited to hear what you come up with. Get you up on the mixtapes.
Cool. I'm gonna see if I can like double down my input. And thanks for making the time, man. That's really cool.
All right, word. Lots of love, YouTube Massive. Peace out.